And I know there's going to be a few more people potentially joining, but also listening to this afterwards because we've had a lot of interest in this subject.
Yeah.
Um, so Sophie and I met a couple of weeks ago, and Sophie made a passing comment to me saying, "I love AI," and I thought, "What? How can you?" But actually, that sort of really made me realize that, I know nothing about this, and I'm just making these assumptions about AI, that it's a terrible thing and it's actually really scary. Um, and for what we do at SmartWorks, we have had lots of coaches and lots of people say things about AI in the sort of with regards to job hunting and how larger companies are using AI to do screening and all that kind of thing. So it's a bit of a hot topic at SmartWorks. And when Sophie kind of mentioned what she did and how much she liked AI and how much she saw the benefits of it, and also her experience of, EDI and sort of her experience in a career, we thought, right, great. Sophie is the woman to do some training for us. So Sophie's joined our volunteer squad, and she's going to be helping out with all things AI, EDI, and general sort of support with training and things for the staff team. So we're absolutely delighted to have Sophie on board. She's going to be sharing her slides, so I'm going to hand over to Sophie now. So thank you so much.
Fine. Thank you, Helen, for that introduction, giving me no pressure at all. No, my name's Sophie Kalala. My pronouns are she, her. And really, the accent you're hearing is quite shocking when you think, oh, this is SmartWorks Newcastle. I live in Darlington. I love the North East. I'm actually very passionate about making sure that everyone in the North East can remain here, because I often think we're losing talent sometimes to other regions when businesses don't come up north. And I'm a big advocate for, let's get some office rented here. Let's get some of our workforce working. As Helen mentioned, my background is primarily EDI. I've worked in the civil and public space for the last 6 to 7 years now. So EDI encompasses belonging, culture, neurodiversity, disability inclusion, racial inclusion. And the reason I'm really passionate about AI is actually I'm a neurodivergent person. I live with dyslexia and dyspraxia. And actually for me, dyslexia is one of the main reasons I started to use AI in the first place. It was to check my grammar. But however, it's expanded quite a lot since then. I'm going to go over a little bit about, for all your kind of work coaches, employment coaches, what that means and what it means for the service users you have at SmartWorks. We will look to have a little break at 1:30, but if everyone's fine, we will continue until about 10 to 1 or 1:45, and then I'm happy to take more questions. So can I have some thumbs up if people can see the slide that I'm sharing, just to make sure? Yes, brilliant. Okay. Just move you guys over here. Actually, we'll keep you here. So we'll be covering today what is AI, touching on some UK regulation and ethics, some free and accessible AI platforms, practical AI for smart work coaches, navigating AI detection, prompt engineering, key takeaways, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So let's dive in. So what is artificial intelligence? So in the job market, most relevant types of generative AI, such as ChatGPT or Gemini, these are kind of predictive AIs. And then we will find kind of tracking systems using another form of AI. No, do apologise. ChatGPT and Gemini is generative AI, and then applicant tracking systems use predictive AI. So what you're going to be really seeing from your service users is generative AI. They're using AI to generate information about their skills, their experience. However, when candidates are applying for jobs, many companies are using predictive AI to do what we call keyword matching, kind of strengthening who goes to interview, and they're doing it at mass. Because with AI, we've seen a huge number of candidates being able to automate their applications. Presently, I'm with the Housing Ombudsman Service, and this is a fully remote organisation. Per role, we get about 2,000 applications. This is what recruiters and talent managers are sifting through. And the problem is, as great as AI is, sometimes we're actually seeing that candidates, when they get to the interview stage, aren't actually able to talk to the skills they've put in the CV because they've used AI. Not here to demonise anything, not here to have a go at anyone, but that's the reality. We are seeing thousands more applications, and now it's even harder to assess from a recruitment point of view what talent is genuine and what talent will actually be able to deliver in these roles. So I kind of touched on there some of the positives. For myself, a dyslexic person, using AI can really help with my grammar. There still are a lot of barriers for dyslexic people where they assume that, you wouldn't be able to write a policy, you wouldn't be able to talk to people, you wouldn't be able to kind of methodically think through processes and policies. That's not true. People are using AI to help them reduce some of the barriers they face in the work market. However, with that, as I mentioned, we are also seeing some of the negatives. We're seeing applications en masse from individuals who are desperate for work because they need money. They need to survive in this economy. However, recruiters now are being ever more stringent, and they're actually reducing the number of candidates that get to interview because sometimes they cannot genuinely tell what is real and what is not being documented in that CV. And there are a few ways that even sifting on interviews and applications, I can tell that AI has been used, but I can tell it's been used not in the good way. American spelling is the biggest obvious version. So ChatGPT is set in American spelling. You have to tell it not to write that in American. You need to UK grammar only. And that kind of talks on our prompts, which I'll get to in a minute. But really, to set the scene, we are seeing recruiters having to sift through just hours worth of CVs. And each time they spend 5 minutes, 2 minutes looking at each CV. Unless that information is right there and they think it's genuine, they won't put it through. So why should SmartWorks and your service users embrace AI? So boost efficiency. Sometimes we find that our CVs have to be adapted per role we apply to, and that takes time. Now, a number of your service users might be women who are fleeing domestic violence. They might be struggling with addiction. They might be actually working and trying to find another job while dealing with bullying, harassment, discrimination, victimisation in the workforce. It takes time and effort to apply for roles. And when you know you're ahead of everyone else who's managed to automate it, you've got to make yours stand out. So in a way, AI can be used to boost efficiency. So for me, if I saw an EDI role, I could put it into ChatGPT, put that role into ChatGPT, put my current CV into ChatGPT and say, can you reframe this to make it more specific to this employer, these keywords, these systems it's want me to use? But I'm using what is my current knowledge and actual skills to amplify that. Personalization is really important. Recruiters often try to ensure that what's being written as a bullet point kind of follows the STAR situation. So situation, task, action, result. They will see if something is too vague. So that's why I encourage people to say, what softwares are you using? Platforms. What's your money? What money has been taken in? You've been able to reduce headcount on numbers, because usually ChatGPT won't think to add those things in unless you prompt it. It can also help build confidence. So I can use ChatGPT or Gemini to say, can you coach me through an interview that's going to ask me to talk about EDI and regulation in the UK? So it can do a back and forth situation. Now, I know you can do that for your service users, but you also have a life and can't be on the phone 24 hours a day. And that's why it's really good when people can build that confidence through an AI system. And also it kind of improves accessibility. It makes us think about some of the things we may take for granted. I can write a CV, a cover letter, a supporting statement for some people entering the workforce, some women entering the workforce after having 5 to 10 years, kind of being at home, looking after kids or whatever. That's very difficult. It's very difficult to understand what are all these differences. The individual can then talk to AI, it can talk to Gemini and ChatGPT and say, tell me what this is. I'm a neurodivergent person and I really value clarity, because sometimes due to that neurodivergence, I miss kind of the social subtle context around it. It can help undo some of that as well. So touching briefly on regulations and ethics. So in the UK, we have GDPR, which talks about the rights that you have to your data and the rights to how companies and organisations use your data. And we also have the Equality Act, which looks to remove and prevent discrimination to those within the characteristics. So we've got race, kind of maternity, transgender, disability. Something I always like to let people know if they're going to use AI in any way, yes, your data should be kept private. However, if it wasn't kept private, are you happy with whatever you've put into that system going out into the world? We have seen, I think it's Marks Spencer's or John Lewis, I think, in the same store. They've had a major data breach, and the Information Commissioner's Office will not see kindly to organisations not protecting data, especially AI platforms. However, what I've seen a lot of the time is individuals putting into AI systems things they wouldn't like anyone else to know. but they're using it in that way because they feel that it won't go anywhere else. So it's often really important to look at ChatGPT, Gemini, or Google or Grammarly, and just making sure, what is their privacy systems, what are their privacy policies, and just even Googling data breach ChatGPT. What's their history of keeping that data safe? Now, this is more for smart work colleagues, because on an individual level, the people looking for work aren't really going to care about that. They have an interview, they want to apply for this job, and they don't care how to make it happen. But you guys signposting to these things, it's always worth kind of keeping up to date, going, looking at the news, where has there been data breaches? Where is the Information Commissioner's Office saying these people don't keep data safe? And we'll also provide you a little list also where you can pull that information together. So I've mentioned ChatGPT, which is the kind of biggest AI platform that we've seen. And it does of what I said. I can put in the whole contents of my fridge and ask it to say, make me meals for a week. I can put in my current CV and I can ask it to reformat it from going from an EDI specialist to say, I'm just going to say a work coach with the DWP. It will do that, but it does it because it is pre-filled with information and grabs information from the internet. It's very easy to see when people use ChatGPT because it's American language. It uses dashes, little dash lines, so often. Very easy to see for me if I'm looking for applications. And again, it's very vague. So only someone who's really used this platform a lot understands how it needs to be prompted to really pull down into that data to make the application look genuine. Gemini is also another platform of AI. However, it automatically puts things into UK grammar. So that's why a lot of people like to use it as well. Google Interview is, I think, quite a useful tool because if I was to go to an interview and they ask me a specific question, I might just ramble off my answer and I think I'm following the STAR format. However, going on to Google Interview, it will ask you a question and then it will transcribe exactly what you've said. And it gives your service user an interesting insight into, this is what I think I've said, but this is what I've actually said. That's quite powerful in us developing service users to enhancing their interview experience. And then we have Grammarly, and this was the first kind of AI platform I used, over 10 years ago. And it's been really helpful for spelling, grammar, understanding punctuation, a really good platform for those who maybe don't have English as a first language, or are like me and they're dyslexic and they really are struggling with how to form sentences. There is still, and for many of you might already aware, there is still a heavy amount of bias in recruitment for people who do not spell words in a certain way or in grammar or can't convey themselves in text. That doesn't mean they're bad at their job. It's just another level of barrier that we're seeing in the recruitment process because, again, there's so many applications, 2,000 applications for one job. If you've got a load of bad grammar mistakes in your CV and your application, recruiter's going to sift it out. The counter to this is when grammar is perfect and you've used every keyword on that job description, then they start to go, oh, this is a little too perfect. And you might be sat there going, Sophie, well, how can it be perfect, too perfect, and then not perfect enough? This is where the genuineness comes into it. This is why it has to be bespoke. Your applications have to drill down into specific detail and what you've done in roles. So AI can be used to enhance CVs. So what I mentioned before, I can put in a role I'm interested in into ChatGPT. I can then put my CV in and I can ask it, have I used all the keywords from this job description? Can you check my grammar and spelling to ensure it follows UK grammar? Can you identify any gaps or lack of skills being mentioned in my CV that are required from this job advert? Personalisation is the next bit we'll move on to. And this is how you prompt ChatGPT to really pull down your information and also ask you questions to clarify what you've done. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but one that I find quite interesting and smart works employees might find interesting is people who are changing careers. So a prompt is, I'm changing careers from being a scientist to being a HR professional. Please review my CV, paste CV, and help me identify and rephrase my transferable skills to be relevant for the new HR professional industry. How you prompt will make and break your kind of CV, application, cover letter, personal statement. That is the skill that I often see people lacking when they have used AI in their job application, because they haven't prompted it. And I do believe, and I'm not a psychologist, that sometimes when we put effort into things, it hurts even more when we don't get the result we were looking for. These are women I know you're working with in very vulnerable situations. They are having to use their mental and physical strength to maybe get through day-to-day living. The idea of then spending 3 hours really prompting an AI system to make sure your application is perfect might not be there. They also might not understand how AI works enough to prompt correctly, because I still do think that information isn't out there as much as people are just using AI for these basic, please review my CV. So, mention CVs, cover letters. I find that every organisation has a different requirement for cover letters. So you can prompt the AI to say, I'm applying for an NHS Newcastle Trust role. I need to write a cover letter. What do you know of NHS cover letters and how they should be written? So using the actual employer, using the knowledge it's compiled from all its Google searches and insight to apply specifically to the role you're going to. It can also create content generation, so you can prompt it saying, is there anything I'm missing? So some cover letters like you to outline, are you looking for a full-time, part-time, flexible working, term-time job? What's your notice period with your current job? Again, 2,000 applications. That recruiter doesn't have time to ring you and clarify, even if you're a great person. That cover letter states all the things they need to get you through to that next interview stage. Brilliant. So we've got a few prompts here, which is, I think, the best one. I want to show my enthusiasm for the NHS in my cover letter. Suggest a unique sentence or two that goes beyond generic statements referencing something specific about them. Any of you have sifted through CVs and you've gone, oh, I'm great for this, I'm great for that. If that candidate mentions the values, it mentions your strategy, it mentions your KPIs and how you've, detailed your pay gap reporting last year. That shows me as an interviewer and then as a recruiter, they've Googled our employer, they've at least done some background work. They haven't, they've asked AI to do it. But what the applicant should do is just double check that information is actually correct as well. There's nothing worse than going, you did a great pay gap report, you've reduced the, women are out earning men by 10%. Actually, we haven't. That was the year before. And this year we've dropped by 10%. You lose credibility, sadly. But that's another way that AI can be used to really personalize people's applications. But again, it's the prompt. It won't do that for the applicator if you just say, look at my CV and see if it's suitable for this organisation. So AI for interview preparation. It took me many years of coaching to be able to just sit here and talk to you all now without a really clear script exactly what to say. But that's because I have been coached and mentored my entire career. I've been supported in that. And sometimes we won't see women being able to be supported in that way. Now, you've got so many wonderful people at SmartWorks from different career backgrounds, but sometimes you might not have someone who's been an environmental lawyer for one of your service users who wants to go and do that. So there's not that lived experience in that profession that they can talk you through. However, AI can do that. So again, if I hadn't spent 7 years in EDI, I might go on to Gemini and go, can you act as an EDI specialist who recruits other EDI specialists? What are the key things that I should be aware of in the UK around EDI in the private sector? But it's the prompt. So rather than saying, can you act as a professional recruiter, really drill down. It is drilling down in what you need the AI platform to do. So I think the best one for that is I have an interview for a EDI specialist role. What are the 3 common technical questions I might be asked in this industry and role, and how should I approach answering them? Getting ahead of that interview, because it's going to be so hard to get the interview in the first place. You're going to need to know, though, in the interview, you're going to be questioned on very specific things. I don't love if people lie in their applications. However, that doesn't mean they can't assume knowledge and compile knowledge themselves before the interview. So if someone says to me in their application, I've used Power BI, which is a data management platform, great. They get to interview. I'm going to ask, how have you used Power BI before? And they can say, oh, I've used it in a personal time, to help budget tracking, to help seeing where I might want to go on holiday, all that data. Or I've used it in my other role to look at kind of diversity data of our staff. They could have only done that for 2 weeks, but they've done it and they can answer the question relating to it. AI detection. So I've talked a lot about my own role in reviewing applications, CVs, and where I can spot that AI hasn't been used appropriately and the applicant has relied on it too much and actually loses. What frustrates me is their actual brilliant background. They're relying on it because they're scared that maybe what they have isn't enough. But that's where smart works coaching comes in, upskilling women, building that confidence again. But what I can see from a recruiter standpoint is generic and vague language, not drilling down into experiences, platforms, software, money, KPIs, strategies, lack of personalization. So instead of saying, if every single bullet point says I led, I did, I that, most people wouldn't write in that way. They would really personalize it. Inconsistent tone, whether it's written in the first person, second person, or third person, when it changes so suddenly, it also makes me think, is this AI? And again, American spelling. I'm going to keep going on about this, but it's honestly, when I'm talking to colleagues, they're going AI. And it might not be. It might be a person that's learned English in another part of the world. But they've learned English with the American spelling of the words. But that's the bias that is creeping in at the moment. But why is this important to SmartWorks? Why is this important to your clients? Because AI isn't going anywhere. It is here. People are using it. And I do believe in the next 2 to 5 years, we'll start to see roles being replaced by it. Administrators, recruiters, talent managers, even EDI people such as myself. However, that doesn't mean that women have to be the ones to suffer the reduction in these roles. Primarily in history, they have been. But we can help leverage our women's skills in AI by explaining to them how to use it and what to do. But they can also start to use it in their role in their CV. So, for example, if someone's been an administrator for 20 years and then they're being replaced by AI, they can do maybe a short course or go for a short session to say how they're used to monitoring AI outcomes in the workforce. And that's what these women can do. They can go from being the doer to the observer, to the supervisor. Because when you start using these platforms, and I'm really going to encourage you to do, sometimes AI spits out things you didn't even ask for. I was using it the other day and it was like, what do you think about these solar panels? At no point have I mentioned solar panels. You still need that human element. AI will never be able to do that. And I know we've all seen films where artificial intelligence has created a world monster. It's not going to be able to do that. It doesn't have that human element. So your values at SmartWorks are empowerment. I believe you can empower women to use AI to help them land interviews, obtain jobs, and still be relevant in the workforce as we change. It helps you build confidence, because even though wonderful people donate your time, you can't be there 24 hours a day. We can teach these women to use AI to help them with mock interviews, help them really understand what is a star response. Support and guidance. It can also be there maybe to talk through things that they're a bit nervous about or how the interview went afterwards. And transformation. It's really important that we realise where the world is in the market at the moment. More and more organisations are using AI, but that means women need to get ahead of this so their roles don't disappear and their ability to leave situations that are dangerous to progress their own career. We still see women who have chosen to have children be demonised and discriminated against because they've done that, as well as dignity and respect. Women deserve dignity and respect, and by enhancing how we coach and mentor them to use AI in applying for jobs and interviews, we allow them to keep that dignity and respect. So this has gone through much quicker than I thought, but I really don't like to make things go longer than they need to. What's some homework for everyone? I want you to start using ChatGPT, Gemini, Google Interview, and Grammarly. Set yourself up another email address, one that's just for that, and start using it, start questioning it. Don't put anything in like your medical diagnosis, please. Don't put in your financial information. Put in your own CVs. What could I improve? Could you act as a charity CEO? could you assess, and Helen might be like, don't say that, Sophie. Could you assess what pay boundaries that person, this CV, could reflect? What are the common problems in recruiting for these roles? This will help me identify for your next session some very particular experiences you guys might have, because you might ask more about prompts. You might use some of the prompts from this presentation and go, Sophie, I did this, but nothing came out. The best way I can help you in the AI space with your clients and with SmartWorks is by you guys using it and telling me your experience. AI isn't here to dominate the world, but it is here, and we need to get ahead of it for our clients so that they're not exploited and not being able to find work, because often women are the people where there is industrial revolution, women are the people that are often subjected to losing out on opportunities. Okay. And that's it. I know it's very brief, I know it's very quick. And what I always like to say is that because this is more of a webinar, the reason I put so much text on PowerPoints, now I normally wouldn't do this if I was giving a presentation in a general workspace, but it's so when I'm not there, you can still see all that information. Because some of you might be going, Sophie, you're telling everyone to do this and you've done all that text in the presentation, you're not meant to do that. It's only because you guys are going to need that information when you're going through it yourselves. So do people need a 5-minute break, or would we like to jump into questions or just share a conversation? So let's do thumbs up for break or shaking heads for don't need a break. See, if I was in the office, I'd be like, right, star jumps. Helen, I'm happy for the questions to be recorded, but just want to check with everyone here. If you were to ask questions, are you happy for that to be recorded as well? Thumbs up, nodding, star jumps.
Yes. That. Yeah, great.
Right.
Shall I jump in with a question first? And then do we want to put the hands up if anyone else has got a question? Could you press the hands up button? So first of all, thank you, Sophie. I'm also dyslexic and I am really frightened of using a lot of these things. But I'm not going to be frightened anymore. I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna give it a go. I've got a very, very basic question. When you say put into ChatGPT and put your CV into and put your JD into, like how, literally, how do you do it? How?
So Control A, copy and paste into the search bar at the bottom.
Okay.
There will be like a way you can submit information, kind of like a chat box, really. If I was to go onto B&Q's returns policy, I'm going to be met by a chat box.
Okay.
I haven't set up my side chat GPT and Gemini areas, or else I would physically show you live. But it is just that, it's a little search box at the bottom. On chat GPT, if you have the free membership, you can copy and paste text into it. If you have the paid version, you can upload documents into it. But again, just being considerate, that's then on the internet. But it is as simple as you can upload as much as you want. ChatGPT, however, does have a limit in how much you can upload to. So say, for example, I wanted to upload your strategy straight onto ChatGPT. It's probably over 1,000, 2,000 words, so it will go, can't do that. Gemini can, and that's what, from you guys using it, you'll be able to see what are the limitations of each of these platforms. But it is a simple either copy and paste, or you can upload, and it's very clear at the bottom how you can do that as well.
So you literally Google ChatGPT and then copy and paste in, and then it'll kind of prompt you. Okay. Yeah.
You will have to set up a login, but that's why you should only use an email address that is just specifically for these platforms. So don't use your normal one. But yeah, it is that simple. And you might not want to ask it something like really heavy to begin with. You might just want to go, I'm new to using ChatGPT. What can you tell me about you? And it will tell you about it.
Yeah. I found the comment about you could put the contents of your fridge in and it tells you what to, I mean, it's like ready, steady, cook, isn't it? It's just, yeah, it's mind blowing, but I have to say I feel less afraid of it now. So thank you for that. Sam, over to you. You've got a question.
So yeah, just just to confirm that I use ChatGPT a lot now, worryingly a lot, and I've noticed myself using it more and more when I'm coaching clients at SmartWorks as well, because you've got when we're running through the interview questions, I run through those, but then I just pop on ChatGPT, what else might they ask, and I find it really, really useful to ask more in-depth questions for that particular industry. And I've also used it to help write a CV as well. But those points that you've made, I think, are really useful as well. Thinking about how you've written them, and do they look obvious, like with the dash in? There was a LinkedIn post the other day saying, well, why are people using ChatGPT to make LinkedIn posts? We can clearly see, with the dash that you've. Although I do use dashes quite a lot. No, so my question is, why would you suggest using a different email? Because I use mine just with my normal email. Is it a security thing, or?
It's just a security thing. I always say that, even if you sign up for discounts on a website, use an email that you're happy if it was released to the public or, breached. It's not got anything really personal in that kind of Hotmail address, for example. Don't want to scare anyone. Most of these platforms have been really good at making sure the information is kept contained. But it's just something as a form of best practice. I always tell people when you're trialing something, just create an email address that you're happy. If something was leaked from that, it goes to that email address. There's no information about your bank account, your address, medical history. So, but if you've already got one, you're using that, then you can keep doing that. It's just one of the things I recommend.
But one thing that does worry me is that ChatGPT knows so much about me now, and I think there is something that you can say, remember me or don't remember me, isn't there? And I must work out where that is so that I can it's useful in a way because it's got all my background, so when I'm asking it, it already knows me, so in that way it's easier. But then I worry that it knows so much, and then what will happen to all this information,
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. In if you're already using it and you've already put all this information in, it's like, oh, so in a way it is there. You can look through their privacy policy and see what their retention data policy is, or I'm happy to do that for people as well, because we've all worked in different companies. There is like a data retention clause, usually in an employment contract. They keep it for up to 2 years, and then if you don't agree, they delete it. I can have a look for people who have Sam, as you mentioned, already been using it, and you might actually think, oh, actually, I want all that stuff to come off now. It might not be able to, but then you could start using a different kind of login for it in the future. But you are right, Gemini actually remembers information, which is really interesting.
I don't use Gemini, I only use ChatGPT. I've got it on the app on my phone as well. And I've just literally asked it so much.
It's a really handy tool, and I think when we've all got meetings and we've all got you all have different clients. One person's coming in wanting to be a nurse, the other just wants a shop job, or it's so different. And often I see people where they're like, oh, I rely on it now, and that's just confidence. And there's nothing wrong with relying on technology, but sometimes it's also good to have a little detox, thinking about how often you're using it in the day. Is it for everything? Sam, I'm sure you've coached and mentored women for a number of years, and really this is just about the ease of getting that information through. But if anyone's worried about the reliability, just again, say if you smoke a lot and you go, actually, I think I'm smoking too much, note down how often you're smoking per week using ChatGPT per week, and then go, right, I'm going to reduce that by 5. Again, not a psychologist, not a clinical expert or a doctor, so don't do that if you are smoking. But that's another thing that is people have been saying, like, God, I can't exist without this now. We existed without it before, and we can exist without it again.
Yeah. Another thing I found useful for SmartWorks as well is, can you tell me about this company's values and any staff benefits? Sometimes you can't always find those on the website, but so that it searches all of the different websites and it gets you that information quicker. So I like to think of it as like a personal assistant that just helps me, rather than, my 2 daughters hate AI. I can't even mention the word AI. They're like 16 and 22. So I just say to look at it as making your life a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And if they're within academic study, a lot of universities hate it as well, because people are obviously using it and abusing it. No, I think those are great 2 points you mentioned there about the information. I can look out for SmartWorks, how each of these platforms retain information. We can let you know. But again, if you're comfortable to use your personal email address, the one you use all the time, that's up to you. My recommendation would just be as you create a unique one for this.
Brilliant. Thank you. Over to Carol next.
Thank you so much, Sophie. That was just an absolute wealth of information. Really, really helpful. I'm not a coach. I'm a trustee. I don't work hard like that. um, I was really what struck me was the preciseness and focus and drilling down in your prompts. I work as a consultant in the charity sector in my day job, and I've started using ChatGPT, I've used Copilot, I can't remember what else I've used as part of my research these days around all sorts of things, whether it's other organisations in an area where I'm working or whether it's funding opportunities. So I use it quite a lot these days. I don't use it to generate any text. I use it to search more than anything else. And I can't remember where I've seen this training. I think it's probably on Twitter where you get all these memes that come up with, here are 100 prompts, to use for all sorts of reasons, when you're using AI. But yeah, the specific, I can't say it, how specific you make your prompts is absolutely critical, isn't it? And that's what I've been realizing in my searching. I'm delighted to hear that you use ChatGPT and AI already, Sam. I'll hold my hands up. I didn't realize that we were using it in that way. And so the emphasis on prompts I really think is so important. I don't quite know how to phrase my second point. It's not a question, it is a question. It's probably for Helen as much as anything. I hadn't appreciated the breadth of what you could do with AI. So I've learned a lot today. Thanks, Sophie. Just very, very, really grateful for your help and support. And one of the things that stood out for me was the opportunity for our clients to actually practice their interviews. And I just wondered whether we could think about that, Helen, outside of this session, and whether that's added value in some way, and to show that I'm a great one. I'm not from the Northeast, unfortunately, Sophie, but I've lived here for like 40 years, still not got the accent, sadly. But I'm a really passionate about the Northeast leading the way, being a model of good practice in what it does, etc., etc. And that translates onto SmartWorks Newcastle particularly. And I just wonder how we can add value into that by maybe thinking about our offering or support so that women can either do practice afterwards using AI, and how we can maybe build that in, might be being ambitious with a caveat, and I'll stop talking over this, with a caveat that I can remember being out of work and a single parent a long time ago, and how underconfident I was. And if I'd done something online that then said, Carol, yeah, well, that was pretty weak and pretty poor, and you didn't hit any of the key points, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, and there was no one there to support me, I might not feel like improving my interview question practice by doing it again. So I think there's an opportunity there, but the caveat is, how do we make sure we support women appropriately in case they get a feedback that really knocks them back because they haven't got a person there with them?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because if you think about what we do as the coaching side of SmartWorks, you could get that from AI. And I think that's quite terrifying. But what is so important about SmartWorks is the relationships and the face-to-face and the kind of the women supporting women, and that kind of empowerment that you get from sitting opposite someone in the coaching room. But actually, part of the next phase of the planning for SmartWorks as a national charity is looking at the onward support after that 1 hour of coaching and what that looks like. And I know from the conversations that I've had is, embracing the sort of online platforms, and AI does come into that. So I think you're right, Carol, it's what we can do beyond the coaching room. And it's that kind of, go away and practice answering the questions back, perhaps, that kind of thing. So that's something that Sophie and I and potentially some of our coaches can actually work on and put together some sort of information sheets to sort of suggest that onward. But it's never going to replace that face to face, is it? And I think that is literally the magic of SmartWorks, but it's building on and giving more resources that I think we need to look at. So yeah, it's a really good suggestion.
Just to come in there, I think, you know, Carol, you've touched on what it's psychological safety, really. It's very vulnerable to sit with someone and say, you know, oh, I'm doing this, but I haven't been able to say that in the correct way. I've had 2 interviews and I haven't got them, and I'm just really down. You will have crisis plans in SmartWorks should someone disclose anything to harm themselves or others. But something that's I think of when you mention that is, say you could log into your SmartWorks account, right? And on there, they could be kind of similar to Google interview, where you could be prompted to answer a question. So tell me a time you've delivered at pace. This is a really big civil service one. I hate it. But so you could record your response, and then one of your coaches online will come back to that later and watch it and then write up in text, you know, how you could have improved that. Again, there could be a caveat saying, here's all our wellbeing information, here's what to do if you're feeling unwell or need help. But that's another idea where it's kind of like a backlog system where you can still see that person translate their response, and then you can pull together a bit of a summary. You can record your response back and say, you know, this was great, really think you need to focus on the action part here, but the result was great, kind of that sandwich situation. So even just from my brain, but then it would mean, you know, creating a login, data privacy. And I was thinking they're going, oh God, how would you set that up? But no, I think, Carol, you've touched on a great point, the human element, safety. You know, these are women who need help, and sometimes they might not be in a place where they can receive that kind of real brutal feedback. ChatGPT does have a function though, where you can, I probably won't say it correctly, the response it gives you won't be sugar coated. And I have it set on that only because I know I'm in a place of strength and wellness that it will wash off me if it says, Sophie, that was awful. But that's one of the features of it as well. So, but Carol, I think you mentioned a great point, and using it for research is wonderful as well. And for funding, it's actually quite a useful tool, because say you wanted to apply for funding from the National Guard, and one of the caveats is that you have to have delivered so much free time to individuals. You could then put in information, say your strategy or annual report, and say, have we matched part of this criteria for the funding? Tell me yes or no. And if no, how do we get there? So that's a way you can filter that. Still the human element, because I'm sure, you know, yourself as a trustee, if someone's been applying for funding, you can tell if the information is genuine or not. But it's a way to kind of get around maybe some of the criteria very quickly and go, we've done this, this and this, but we need to work on this. So very conscious of time. So Sam, is yours what do you call a hand that's remained?
It's Kate next.
Sorry. Kate.
Okay, thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you. And a couple of very quick points. I think, Helen, talking to your point about the fact we could all be replaced by AI, it probably is one of the USPs that SmartWorks needs to really hold on to. And I think the face-to-face stuff we do can be so much more intuitive than AI. So just a general observation that, you know, some of the ladies I meet wouldn't know what to type into AI, even if it had all the answers. So that's an observation. I have a thing to share from another business I work with. Apparently you can delete your chat from ChatGPT and ask it not to remember your chats. It's somewhere in the initial or the easy stuff. So I don't suppose it stops it remembering, really, because that's about what they do on their servers. But there is a function to delete chats. So I think if you're worried about what's on there historically, it's probably worth just deleting. I had a question for you, Sophie, which was just, I have been using my own email, which has my name in it. Should I set up a new email and start again? And can I cancel my old account?
So I wouldn't know if you can cancel your old account. That will be within your privacy settings. Sorry, I can hear myself repeating. I would always use an email address when you're testing something that you haven't used before. Create a new one, rather than the one you use every day. But I apologise if I've caused fear for people today. If you are currently using your own, that's fine. But my partner actually works in IT, and that's something also that he says that he recommends people to do as well. Just because if for example that email address is shared with a black market online.
No, it's good to be warned, Sophie, and perhaps it's something we can all share with other people. And one final question then, which is on a par with Helen's first question, I think. How do I set up a new email?
I can do you a video to do that. Whether you want to set it up in Hotmail or Google, I'll do a little registration on that. So Helen, actually in SmartWorks, you've got this really great video which shows how you get to your office, the live kind of step thing. So I can do that for you guys as well. I'll set up a screen recording. I'll show you how we can create a new email on Google and Hotmail, and I'll also show you how you can set up ChatGPT accounts and Gemini as well, because I think that will be better than me explaining it, which won't work.
That would be brilliant. Thank you. And then to Angela.
Hi, Sophie. That was brilliant. And Helen, thank you for extending it to the volunteers. Really, really helpful. So just, I guess everyone's, I think, at a very similar stage from an industry perspective. So the media industry are really grappling with kind of the kind of information or how they use AI. And I think there's something like, is it 30% of information that might have been uploaded by media agencies on behalf of their clients is probably very sensitive and sort of shouldn't be there. So they're in the process of doing, I guess, what you're doing, which is developing the sort of the policies and the processes to help people to be able to get the most out of it to benefit both themselves and clients that they're servicing. So so this is really helpful. From my use, I understand it's all in the prompt. And so how do you, I mean, you gave some great prompt advice there, but how do you finesse it? And do you follow either individuals or organizations who are really good at teaching how to finesse prompts? And if you are, who are they? So that I can also do the same.
Well, I have a partner that works in IT, so he's usually quite good at that prompt and engineering as well. All these prompts are from ChatGPT and Gemini.
Okay.
You can ask the AI, if I need this, what prompt do I ask?
Yeah.
So you can use it back on itself. I will say some prompts work better depending on the AI platform you're in. But the only way I've been able to get even to this basic level of knowledge is by using it. It is practice. It is, you know, from the basics of what's in my fridge to not put it. So someone used it the other day, which was interesting. They had a credit card and it's like this balance and this percentage, and they didn't really understand what that meant if they didn't pay back in a certain amount of time. So they just said, hypothetically, there's this, this, and this. What would be a good way to pay this down without incurring loads of fees? So that was really interesting to me. But what you're mentioning there is how do you make sure your prompt is specific? And it is by either asking the platform, how do I prompt in this way to get this response, or just practicing.
Yeah.
And you will start to notice going, I wasn't specific with that. And also, even if you do prompt it, that's where the human part of this is. It might miss it. It might go, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. So if I was applying to work for you, Angela, as an administrator, and you say one of your key skills is you have to have used Workday before, and I've got it to pull my CV together. And then I'm like, I will prompt it, say, can you double check from the job description that you've mentioned everything that was mentioned in the job description? It is not perfect. It forgets. Yes. So that's just one of the ways I would start to understand prompt analysis. I don't have anyone specifically that's coming to mind as like a leader in prompt, but if I do find people, I will pull it together. And Helen, I think we can share that with other people as well, because I don't think there's anything wrong. And if we say there's a Northeast Oracle of AI, maybe they can come to SmartWorks. Maybe they can come in and do some work in this as well. So I'll do that for you.
That was great, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Sophie. Honestly, that's been really helpful. I think I'm going to go away and practice on Gemini because it's got the UK grammar, because I am a complete novice. Thank you so much. I think we'll catch up again on the recordings that you mentioned, because I think that'd be really useful for everyone, and it would be useful to be able to share with clients as well. And then any sort of other thoughts and feedback that anyone has, drop us a note, and then we can look at getting some additional support and information and things from Sophie. But thank you so much for taking the time, Sophie, to do that today. We really appreciate it. Sam, was your hand up before? It's not another question.
No, it was on
Okay,
before.
great. Grand. Okay, well, thank you. If everyone's finished with questions, thanks again, Sophie, and see you all soon.
All right, be good, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Sophie.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Sophie. Really appreciated it. Thank you. Bye-bye.